Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Video Mojo. My name is John Leland, and I'm a digital marketing strategist. And if you don't know, Video Mojo is a playful exploration of timeless marketing principles and the bleeding edge of video and social media marketing. And today I'm joined by my good friend and collaborator, Michael Kass, who's the founder of storyandspirit.org. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks, John. I didn't realize I was on the bleeding edge, so I'm excited. I'm even more excited to join you
Yeah, we
today.
don't all get to hang out on the bleeding edge all the time. That's my job, though. And as you may know, this is our second episode of the three pillars of building a vibrant video presence, a vibrant video presence. I like the sound of it. Anyway, last week, if you didn't see it, we'll put the link in the show notes. We covered humanity, which is pillar number one. And this week, we are doing pillar number two, which is technology. And then the following episode, we'll be doing story, which is a whole thing in of itself, and Michael Kass is uniquely qualified for that. But both of us are pretty much on the bleeding edge of the technology of a vibrant video presence, and we're going to give you a really action-packed 10 to 12 minutes, we think. We're going to cover sound, lighting, cameras, and then other Zoom tips and editing and who knows what else. Did I cover it all, Michael?
That sounds like a lot. I like that the who knows what else is the catch-all for anything else that makes its way into the
Yeah,
conversation.
we're going to do a lot of who knows what else. But I recommended, and Michael agreed, that we do sound first, because
Yes.
I think that sound is the most neglected, important thing. I'm wearing my AirPods because they give you a nice microphone. I see people do it on TV all the time now. And Michael has a clip-on lavalier mic.
Yep. I have a
And
USB mic. It costs like $20. It's
I know,
so
and I also shoot when I was doing other episodes of Video Mojo with my iPhone, which we'll get into with the camera. But I have an adapter, and I have a $20 lavalier microphone that I use with the iPhone. That the number one secret about sound is that you want the microphone to be as close to your mouth as possible.
yeah.
And you see people these days, they'll put a microphone right in the screen like that because they want the microphone up close. That's how you get an intimate, rich sound. It drives me crazy, all the people doing essentially speakerphone quality sound, even on network television.
Well, and especially, there's my social media feeds are littered with like pub sort of some of them are like charlatans and some of them might be legit, but like voice coaches and public speaking coaches because of the field I'm in. And I'm amazed at how many of them have like a beautiful image, but they're clearly using the microphone on their laptop or on their computer. And it immediately decreases their presence, right? Their level of gravitas, because you're like, oh, why would I pay you a bunch of money? You haven't even invested $20 in a lavalier mic. How can you help me get my message across more clearly? So just being
Yeah.
aware that, right, if we don't think about not just our human presence and our grounding, but how the tools we're using to communicate that through technology, we're kind of handicapping ourselves a bit.
Yeah, and I think it really actually is right on theme for us of a vibrant video presence, that
Mhm.
audio presence is a significant part of video, and you need a microphone somehow. $20 lavalier is fine, or some other audio device to get it close to your mouth.
Yeah,
So that's it on sound, right? I mean, we
I
could
think
talk
so.
about settings in Zoom and
Yeah, I
just
mean, the only other thing I'd add about sound is that having the mic close to your mouth enables you to do a lot more with just vocal levels. Like I'm barely talking right now, and it's pretty clear. So it allows you to be more dynamic as opposed to if the microphone is just on my computer. I kind of have to be up here the whole time, otherwise it'll drop out. So just giving yourself
yeah.
as much flexibility as possible in your expression is another great reason to think about external mics.
It's kind of like you wouldn't talk on the phone. I have my phone here. I could put the phone over by my computer. It's like you would never hold the phone that far away,
Right.
because you want to be up close and personal. And so, of course, you want to do that when you're recording video for the
Yeah.
web in one form or another. Do
Um,
you want to kick off the lighting conversation?
lighting. Also, just like we don't want muddy sound, here, I'll do this. right? If I don't have a ring light on, I fade a little bit into obscurity. So it doesn't matter how compelling I am, I look like I'm in a closet, right? I mean, it's still a lovely background, but you know, it's a lot darker. So again, $20 ring light. I think there's a misconception out there that that this equipment is really expensive and it requires the investment of hundreds of dollars. And it doesn't. You can upgrade your level of presence and professionality in terms, is that a word? Yeah, professionality in terms of your appearance with a minimal
Professionalism.
thank you, professional. I knew something was off with that. And it makes a huge difference that people might not even be consciously aware of, except that they're receiving you differently for the simple reason that they can see and hear you, right? It's like,
there's nice detail, and yeah. I
yeah,
mean, and the other number one tip that I would offer lighting wise, I think that you're totally spot on, but daylight is your friend.
yep.
And kind of like we talked about the breath is your friend in the last
Mhm.
episode. With regard to lighting, daylight is your friend. If you can, I mean, I have one, I'm in my dining room and I have an overhead light that's on, but I have windows, and the windows create this soft daylight that just
Mhm.
fills nicely. And it's like I could be professionally lit as far as I'm concerned, but it's like, it's just really using natural light. And
Absolutely.
the opposite of the worst mistake you can have, you get away with it a little bit in your setup, is having windows behind you,
Right.
because the cameras have such a hard time. You never want a well-lit window behind you unless you've got enough light in front of you to balance it out,
Right.
because that creates this kind of, you become dark, the background becomes washed out. So by facing the windows, I'm just comfortably lit.
Yeah, and the end goal is for at least this type of video of any lighting kit is to replicate natural light. Like you want it always to look like you're facing a window and that natural light is streaming in. So if you're not, if you're able to get natural light, awesome. If not, a ring light works. Or if you want to invest $70 instead of 20, you can get soft boxes, which are just, you set them up kind of each one pointing at you thusly, and it diffuses the light in a really lovely soft way, like you were saying.
Yeah, you want soft light. That's it. And
Yeah.
there are great LED lights. I will put another link in the show notes because I have an Amazon page. It's not affiliate links, but of some of the kinds of things. It's not comprehensive by any means, but these kinds of devices the LED lights are very inexpensive, and they can be soft and provide, like you said, a sense of natural light.
Yeah.
You don't want to shine a bright light on yourself. But one thing that I've done over by my standing desk is I have a light that bounces off the ceiling. So
Mm.
rather than being right on my face, it's a low ceiling over there, which helps. Then I get like a nice spread of light as opposed to like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one thing for both light and sound is to do like a tech rehearsal for yourself before meetings. Um, John, I know that you had a microphone that you were excited to use for this, and it didn't work, right? And it would have been a disaster to be talking about this technology element of vibrant video presence, and you're trying to use a mic, and it's like it's not working like I thought it would. So always doing a tech rehearsal and making sure you're familiar with your tech and how it works and the settings on Zoom. So you in Zoom,
Or the settings on your phone,
or
but
the
yeah,
settings
go
on your
ahead.
phone, yeah, or making sure that you have the input set right. So a lot of times I've worked with folks who have like a fancy microphone, but they haven't selected it in Zoom as their audio input. So it's like they've got this whole setup, and yet they're still using their computer speakers. So being familiar, whatever technology you're using, being really familiar with all the settings, so that you can make sure that you're optimized for presence.
Okay, moving right along, cameras.
Yeah.
So, I have a MacBook Pro. I'm working with the camera on my MacBook Pro. As I said, a lot of the shorter episodes of Video Mojo, I shoot them on an iPhone 10.
Mm.
I'm probably going to wait for the 12, but I was on a call with ukulele teachers talking about video tech and how they record. A lot of them are using the iPhone 11 or 11 Pro because the selfie cam is actually 4K quality video.
Wow.
So they can see themselves on a nice screen, but be recording video that is, I mean, even my iPhone 10 is HD quality video coming off the selfie cam. So
Yes.
it's pretty impressive, all these cameras. And you can, of course, put in an external camera if you prefer. If you
Mhm.
don't have a built-in webcam, there are, Logitech is a good brand of external webcam. Is
Yeah.
that, what, are you on an internal camera or external?
No, so I've got it's now a legacy MacBook Air from like 2012. So the webcam is not so great. So yeah, I have a Logitech C920 or whatever. They does 1080p, which isn't quite 4K quality, but is totally adequate for something like Zoom, right? If I were doing an online course, I might upgrade to like an external DSLR or a mirrorless camera and sort of record on that, because then you can get that nice blurred background effect, that bokeh effect. But for this, you just want to be seen clearly.
Yeah, it's remarkable. We live in an era where the cameras that are built into our phones, the cameras that are built into a reasonably new computer are just remarkably good quality
Yeah.
and serviceable for most things. And it really is these variables we were talking about before, like lighting and like having a nice sound, that are going to make the biggest difference, even more than the camera.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know. I'm a Mac Apple person in terms of editing. iMovie gets the biggest reviews, and ease of use, and you can do almost anything. I actually use Final Cut Pro, the more professional Apple video editing tool. Michael Kass, you do no editing.
No, I do. When I do editing, I actually use an online platform that's even easier than iMovie called WeVideo, that has a free version and like a $4.99 a month version. I think it was designed for like elementary and high school students, which is awesome for me. But you can do all the basic editing, cuts, audio tracks. You can do a little bit of mastering of the sound. It's incredibly intuitive. So if you're intimidated by video editing and yet feel drawn to it, it might be a really great platform to check out.
Cool. And then we were talking in the everything else category. One of the tips that came out of the first episode of the three pillars of a vibrant video presence was a good friend of mine who's an accomplished professional and is doing some Zoom production even, was how did you do that where you were intercutting between the gallery view where you and Michael are side by side and then going to the speaker view where you're just seeing the single shot. And it's a setting inside Zoom that you can set up to record both gallery view and speaker view. And I hope Zoom didn't change it because I meant to go check it before we started recording. But then I put those two tracks into Final Cut Pro and intercut between the gallery view and the speaker view. If you know that's available and you download both files, it's not that complicated. I guess it's a little professional trick, but that's
Yeah.
how that happens.
Well, and the thing with Zoom is because they're experiencing so much growth so quickly, it feels like every week they're introducing new features. And so there's stuff that I find every week. My new favorite one, and we were talking about this right before this, is if I'm in a meeting, right? If I'm facilitating a group or in a panel conversation, if I see my own video, it's incredibly distracting. Because I'm like, is my one hair out of place? You know, whatever. Do I look friendly enough? And so a friend of mine shared this with me. If you don't know already, if you're in a meeting and you hover over your own picture, you see these three little dots in the upper right hand corner. If you click on those, under it you'll see hide self view, and it removes your picture from the video. So if you want to be more fully engaged in a conversation, because it's human nature to want to check ourselves out in the mirror, and the video is the mirror, and you want to hide that, do that, and you will immediately find that you're able to focus more deeply on the conversation. The other one that we talked about, and this is of particular use for musicians, is the original sound option. So Zoom compresses sound using some fancy algorithm. So if I were playing a guitar and singing, or you're playing the ukulele and singing, it comes out as distorted if you don't have original sound on. If you go into your Zoom settings and say enable original sound, or enable option for original sound, and you turn original sound on, then it doesn't compress the sound in the same way, and you're able to have more audio separation. I think it's important to realize that because the technology is changing so much, there can be a sense of playfulness with all of this. It's like, oh, let me try this lighting. Let me try this new setting on Zoom. Let me see what happens. You're not going to break presence as a concept. So experiment
Yeah.
and see what works for you.
Exactly. I mean, that's one of my core values is really play and experimentation. And the true Video Mojo fans out there will know that I've talked about that actually quite a bit. And I really look at this whole environment as, learning a video language. Like there used to be, and I've been doing video for decades, and video production was a thing. Like you basically did video production. And now there's like a million, so many different kinds of cameras. And then there's Zoom production, and there's using an iPhone to shoot production. And then there's TikTok and editing within the app to produce videos that are less than 60 seconds long, and Instagram stories, and I could just go on. So the only way that anyone, regardless of your background, can become proficient at sharing themselves and sharing the value that they want to offer in this environment is exactly what you just said, Michael, is to experiment, play, see how it goes, make mistakes. Don't be afraid to, a friend of mine talks about making mistakes in the direction of your intention. It's like you keep kind of going, you keep going and trying things, and you learn.
Yep.
So that's, I think, the biggest bottom line takeaway.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's pillar number 2 is in the can. We did the technology. We've done the humanity, which without that, you got nothing. And we'll be talking in the next episode about story. Thank you again, Michael Kass.
You're
so
welcome.
Wonderful always to share this with you. And I think we really have fun, collaborative conversations that hopefully you all out there have found valuable. Thank you again for checking out Video Mojo. As always, we welcome your comments, suggestions, likes, shares, and all that other good stuff. And we'll see you next time.